the recent treaty debate perfectly exposed one of the coalition's main tricks, reframing discussions about colonisation to being about race. Ngāti Toa leader Helmut Modlik tried his best to explain this to the panel.
So let me put something to bed instantly here, guys, like really clearly. So focus on this, right? The counterparties to the Tiriti were Anglo-Saxons and Polynesians. The relevance of the race of the rangatira was as relevant as the race of the British. Irrelevant. What there was a compact, a contract, a treaty between two sovereign groups of people and their polities.
Of course, this is Seymour's main mantra, strawmanning Te Tiriti to being about race and then saying he's fighting against race-related things. So he recites it again.
My call is to stop dividing people by their ethnicity and their race. That's all we're asking
Helmut,
for here.
I 100% agree that it is not helpful. Nobody likes it. To differentiate people explicitly on race and ethnicity. This is what I'm trying to communicate to you, David. What we're talking about is belonging to separate sovereign entities who entered into willingly terms of agreement and which one side almost straight away breached and has done so to this day. That's the issue. It isn't about race. I agree with you that it's divisive.
That's the thing. He knows it's divisive, and that's why he keeps taking it there. It also allows them to avoid talking about the real issues. Framing Te Tiriti about race makes it sound like there's a group of people asking for things just because of their skin color or ethnicity, like some kind of racist or something, you know? Instead of a party to a contract asking for the agreement to be honored, instead of a sovereign nation asking to have land back and self-determination. This tactic of turning discussions of justice into race plays out really clearly towards the end of the debate.
Lastly, Dr. Martin Luther King, to quote him, the great man, said the arc of the moral universe is wrong, bends towards justice, and the day for that justice is here, whānau.
Helmut, I think Martin Luther also made a comment wanting to judge people by the content of the character, not the colour of their skin.
Quite right.
So we can always be selective.
You see how he brought it straight back to skin colour? And it's funny, that indignant reaction that we had from Damien Grant comes from the fact that racists have tried to co-opt Martin Luther King, using that quote to imply that justice for oppressed groups is somehow discrimination. But in that very same 1963 speech, Martin Luther King also said, "We've come to our nation's capital to cash a cheque," adding that America had defaulted on the promises of the Constitution. Sound familiar?
Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check. A check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation.
Martin Luther King isn't talking about skin color here, and neither are we when we ask that the Crown takes responsibility for its crimes. But it's much harder to discuss that, so they make everything about race, while telling us we should stop talking about race. Well, I agree. In fact, please, let's stop talking about race and start talking about colonisation.